Right now, the search is on for 3 people who police say shot at a Savannah rapper, killing a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles, and cameras captured the aftermath.
This morning, rapper Lil Durk is charged with murder for hire.
Lil Durk's gang made multiple attempts to kill Quando, Rondo, and Lil Tim. All of it revenge for the death of their homie King Von. What started as grief over one of the biggest losses in modern hip-hop turned into years of surveillance, tracking, bounties, and a coordinated murder campaign that crossed state lines and left bodies in its wake. They found out where Lil Tim was sleeping. They tracked Quando Rondo's every move. They sent shooters to Los Angeles, and when the smoke cleared, the wrong person was dead. Stay locked in, because how deep this rabbit hole goes will change everything you thought you knew about this story.
And they're saying that this goes back to when King Von
lost his life,
was killed.
One of Quando Rondo's peers.
And then Quando Rondo's man died with him in LA.
Yo, what's good, fam? Today we're diving deep into one of the most intense revenge stories hip-hop has ever seen. A story about loyalty, grief, and what happens when loss turns into something far more dangerous. Because after King Von died, the people closest to him didn't just grieve in silence, they allegedly moved. And the chain of events that followed changed everything. Let's get into it. To understand everything that allegedly followed, you have to start where it all began. November 6th, 2020, Atlanta, Georgia. Outside a nightclub in the early hours of the morning, an altercation erupted that changed the landscape of Chicago and Atlanta hip-hop permanently. King Von, whose real name was Davon Daquan Bennett, was shot and killed. He was 26 years old. King Von wasn't just another rapper from Chicago. He was one of the most gifted storytellers to ever come out of the drill scene, a lyricist who could turn lived experience into cinematic street narratives with a precision that his peers respected deeply. He came out of the old block housing development on the south side of Chicago, a place that shaped both his music and his biography. He was signed to Only the Family, the label and collective built by Lil Durk, and their connection went beyond business. They were close. Durk had mentored Von, championed him publicly, and the two operated as genuine brothers within an organization built on loyalty. When King Von died, the grief inside OTF was immediate and raw. Durk posted publicly about his loss. He referenced Von in his music. A community of fans who had followed Von's rise poured grief across every platform for weeks. His death felt catastrophic to people who never met him. For those who actually knew him, the loss was on an entirely different level. And federal prosecutors say that grief did not stay grief for long. According to court documents, within 2 days of King Von's death, a co-conspirator connected to OTF was already allegedly obtaining Quando Rondo's personal phone number. 2 days, Von had not even been laid to rest. His family had not even had time to process what happened. And according to the government's theory, the people around him were already making moves. That detail alone tells you everything about the intensity and the immediacy of what prosecutors say followed. This was not a slow build. According to the federal case, the alleged campaign started almost the same moment the grief did. The confrontation that night outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge involved another rap camp entirely. Quando Rondo, whose real name is Tyquan Terrell Bowman, was a rapper from Savannah, Georgia, who had built his own fan base through a combination of melodic rap and street credibility. That night, his group and King Von's group came into conflict. The documented outcome is this. Gunfire erupted, King Von was fatally shot, and a man named Timothy Leaks, known publicly as Lil Tim, was arrested in connection with the shooting. Timothy Leaks was charged in relation to King Von's death. The legal circumstances surrounding the Atlanta shooting are separate from the federal murder for hire allegations that came later. But from the moment his name became public, the internet connected him permanently to King Von's death. And for the people closest to Von, that connection became the source of something that prosecutors say turned deadly over the following years. Quando Rondo was not charged in connection with Von's death. But online, the association was immediate and unrelenting. Both he and Lil Tim became figures in one of the most intense public feuds the rap internet had ever generated. Before we get into the alleged operations, understand who King Von was to Lil Durk on a personal level, because that context is everything. Federal court documents reference a text message Durk allegedly sent in December 2020, weeks after Von's death. According to prosecutors, Dirk wrote that he wasn't celebrating because Vaughn was dead and nothing had happened yet. He allegedly wrote that Vaughn was him, that Vaughn was all of them, and that if the shoe was on the other foot, there would be no pressure at all. For prosecutors, that message tells you exactly what was being communicated inside that circle in the weeks immediately following the funeral. This wasn't public grief performed for social media. According to the government's theory, this was a man telling the people around him that the death of King Von was personal enough to demand a response. In the world of street rap culture, the phrase "get back" carries enormous weight. It refers to retaliation, to evening a score, to responding to a loss with force. But in the age of social media, the expectation of get back after a high-profile death becomes part of the public conversation almost immediately. Fans post about it, artists make indirect references to it. Online audiences treat it like a scoreboard, tracking who responded and how fast. And within the communities involved, the pressure to respond to a loss with action can become overwhelming. Real talk, that pressure transforms personal grief into something much more dangerous. Because when Get Back moves from being a lyric to being a plan, people die. Prosecutors say that is exactly what happened here. Years after King Von's death, federal investigators built a case alleging that Lil Durk and associates connected to OTF participated in a murder-for-hire conspiracy targeting Quando, Rondo, and the people connected to King Von's death. This was not a local case. This was not a misdemeanor. Federal prosecutors were alleging coordinated interstate criminal activity with a body attached to it. According to court filings, at the center of the alleged conspiracy was a bounty of $1 million placed on anyone associated with King Von's killing. Prosecutors claimed that lucrative financial rewards and music opportunities through the OTF label were offered to individuals willing to participate in carrying out the alleged attacks. $1 million. That is not a street rumor. That is a documented federal allegation sitting inside an active criminal prosecution. Now let's get into the actual attempts, because this is the part the internet has been getting wrong for years. There were not 10 confirmed shootouts. There were not verified ambushes in every city Lil Tim passed through. What federal prosecutors have documented is something more methodical and in many ways more chilling than a series of random gunfights. What they allege is a sustained, organized campaign that targeted both men through surveillance, location tracking, and ultimately a physical operation that ended someone's life. Let's go through each one. The first attempt on Lil Tim was not a shootout. It was something more calculated. After his arrest in connection with King Von's death, Timothy Leaks was eventually released on bond and placed under house arrest in Georgia. He was confined. He was monitored. He could not freely move. And according to prosecutors, evidence found on Lil Durk's seized phone shows that OTF-connected individuals obtained and circulated the exact address of the house where Lil Tim was staying while under that legal supervision. Stop and sit with what that means. Someone went to the effort of finding out where a specific man was living while he was legally confined and had nowhere to run, and then passed that address around within the group. That is not rap beef. That is not an angry comment. That is alleged targeting. According to the government's theory, this was the groundwork being laid for a physical operation against Lil Tim. They allegedly knew where he was sleeping. They allegedly had his address. And the only thing that allegedly stood between that information and something worse was time. The second layer of the alleged campaign against Lil Tim came through continuous digital monitoring. Prosecutors say that OTF members were not just sitting on the address and waiting. They were allegedly tracking his legal status, watching for updates on his bond conditions, and maintaining active awareness of his movements as his case progressed through the Georgia court system. The alleged goal, according to prosecutors, was to stay constantly informed about when and where Lil Tim could be reached. Think about what that kind of sustained attention requires. Someone has to be paying attention every day. Someone has to be checking for updates, sharing information, keeping the group current on where this man is and what his situation looks like. That sustained monitoring combined with the circulated house arrest address is what prosecutors describe as an active, ongoing attempt to set up a physical operation against him. The federal case frames these not as idle curiosity, but as deliberate preparatory steps toward carrying out the alleged contract on his life. The alleged attempt on Lil Tim was not a drive-by that got thwarted. It was a slow, patient information-gathering operation that prosecutors say never stopped running. Now here's where the Get Back campaign allegedly shifted from Lil Tim to Quando Rondo. because both men were targets according to the government's theory, and the documented physical operation that followed was aimed directly at Quando. Federal prosecutors say that by 2021, members of the group were saving screenshots of Quando Rondo's concert flyers, mapping out where he would be performing publicly, and allegedly using that information to coordinate potential operations at his performance venues. Someone was sitting down, pulling up concert announcements, screenshotting them, and sharing them with people whose alleged purpose was to find an opening. Prosecutors also say Dirk C's phone contained a screenshot of a May 3, 2023 social media post reporting that Quando Rondo had been shot at while driving in Georgia. Prosecutors point to this as evidence of continued active interest in Quando Rondo's fate, years after the original conflict, combined with an alleged 2023 text from Dirk expressing that O-Block was playing with Von's name. The picture prosecutors are painting is of a man who never stopped monitoring the situation around his fallen friend's killers. Then came August 19th, 2022, Los Angeles, California. This is the attempt that went from planning to execution, and it is far more calculated than most people realize. According to the Department of Justice and federal court filings, 5 OTF associates did not fly directly to Los Angeles. Kayvon London Grant, Eandre Dontrell Wilson, Asa Houston, Keith Jones, and David Brian Lindsay allegedly flew from Chicago to San Diego first. Then they rented luxury vehicles and drove up to Los Angeles, tracked Quando Rondo's movements around the city, and waited for the right moment. That routing alone tells you this was not impulsive. This was a planned operation executed across multiple days in a city far from home. And how was all of this allegedly funded? According to federal prosecutors, OTF label credit cards were used to help finance the operation. That is the detail that turned this from a street matter into a federal racketeering case. When you allegedly use a music label's financial infrastructure to fund interstate travel, vehicle rentals, and a murder-for-hire operation, you have crossed every legal line that separates a personal dispute from an organized criminal enterprise. Prosecutors say an unnamed co-conspirator also offered lucrative music opportunities along with street cash to anyone who successfully carried out the hit on Quando Rondo. 5 men, flights, rental cars, label money, all of it allegedly pointed at one target. The alleged attack happened near the Beverly Center shopping mall. Prosecutors say the gunman cornered Quando Rondo's vehicle at a gas station and opened fire, discharging at least 18 rounds into the car. 18 rounds. That is not a warning. That is not a scare tactic. According to prosecutors, that was a coordinated attempt to kill everyone in that vehicle. Quando Rondo survived without injury, but someone in that vehicle did not make it out. Savier Robinson, known to everyone close to him as Lil Pab, was Quando Rondo's cousin. He was 23 years old. He was in that vehicle not because he was anyone's target according to anything in the federal case, but simply because of his relationship to Quando Rondo. He was family, and he was fatally shot. The alleged operation that was set in motion because of grief over King Von's death ended with another family losing a young man, not the intended target, Quando Rondo's cousin, gone because he happened to be in the wrong vehicle at the wrong moment during an alleged attack that had been years in the planning. The people who allegedly organized this operation in the name of grief over one death allegedly produced exactly the kind of irreversible loss they claimed to be responding to. Another empty chair at somebody's table, another mother who never got her son back. Now here is what the communication evidence shows after Los Angeles. According to court filings, text messages allegedly exchanged between Dirk and a co-conspirator following Lil Pab's death celebrated the outcome of the Los Angeles attack. These are described in the indictment as Exhibits 208 and 215. Prosecutors say these messages demonstrate that the people connected to the alleged conspiracy knew what had happened and were treating the result as a win. The defense will challenge the interpretation of those messages extensively, arguing that coded language and cultural context cannot be treated as a straightforward admission of criminal knowledge. But for federal prosecutors, those alleged post-shooting messages are among the most direct evidence connecting the Los Angeles attack to the broader conspiracy. There is also the jail call. In August 2022, around the time of the Los Angeles shooting, a co-conspirator who was incarcerated allegedly made a jail call in which he said he was smoking on Lil Pab. For prosecutors, a jail call where someone uses that language in the immediate aftermath of Lil Pab's death is significant evidence of awareness and celebration of what allegedly happened. The defense will argue that slang and context cannot be treated as confession. That argument will be one of the most fiercely contested elements of the entire trial. Now, here is where we have to separate what the federal case documents from what the internet invented around this story, because the internet went extremely far with this narrative. The most viral fabrication was the fake Texas shooting. Street blogs went viral claiming Lil Tim had been ambushed and shot in Texas. The story spread fast, got picked up across platforms, and was treated as confirmed. And then Lil Tim himself went on Instagram to personally debunk it, mocking the internet for manufacturing a hit that never happened. When the alleged target of a years-long retaliation campaign has to go online and tell people he was not shot, you understand how completely fiction and reality had merged in the public conversation. The internet did not need confirmation. It needed content. And the legend of the failed get-back was too compelling to slow down for facts. The Savannah situation was equally distorted. Multiple local shootings occurred in the area near Lil Tim's community, and internet commentators immediately attributed them to Chicago retaliation. Local police investigations connected those incidents entirely to internal Savannah street dynamics that had nothing to do with OTF or King Von's death. What is documented is the federal case. What is documented is the Los Angeles shooting and Lil Pop's death. What is documented is Durk's seized phone and the specific communications described in court filings. Everything beyond that documented record is unverified rumor that grew into legend because the internet needed the story to be bigger than the evidence. Then came Lil Durk's arrest, and it happened in a way that shocked even people closely following the federal case. Durk was arrested near Miami International Airport while allegedly attempting to board a private jet and leave the country. Federal agents intercepted him before he could get out. That detail, the private jet, the airport, the alleged attempt to flee, added a dramatic and deeply serious dimension to an already enormous case. This was not a routine arrest. This was federal agents stopping one of the biggest names in rap at an international airport as he allegedly tried to disappear. Lil Durk has pleaded not guilty. That is not a formality. It is a legal position that carries full constitutional weight. The burden of proof rests entirely with the prosecution. Every allegation in that indictment must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense will challenge the phone evidence, the interpretation of text messages and jail calls, the credibility of cooperating witnesses, and the government's racketeering theory at every level. The trial will determine what can actually be proven and what remains allegation, interpretation, or inference. But the stakes could not be higher. Federal murder for hire and racketeering charges carry potential sentences that could mean decades in federal prison for everyone named in the indictment. For Lil Durk, the outcome of this trial will define the rest of his life in a way that no album, no chart position, and no amount of commercial success can undo. Now let's walk the full timeline one final time, because the chronological progression is what makes the alleged escalation impossible to ignore. November 2020, King Von dies. Within 48 hours, a co-conspirator allegedly attains Quando Rondo's personal phone number. December 2020, Durk allegedly sends a text saying Von is him and Von is all of them. The alleged first operation against Lil Tim begins taking shape as his house arrest address is allegedly obtained and circulated. By 2021, screenshots of Quando Rondo's concert flyers are allegedly being saved to coordinate potential ambushes at his performance venues. The digital surveillance on both men allegedly runs continuously. Then August 19th, 2022, 5 men fly from Chicago to San Diego, rent luxury vehicles using OTF label resources, drive to Los Angeles, track Quando Rondo's movements, and execute an attack at a gas station near the Beverly Center. 18 rounds, Quando Rondo survives. Lil Pab dies. Alleged celebratory texts are exchanged. A jail call references Lil Pab by name, and then Durk is intercepted at Miami International Airport on a private jet, allegedly trying to leave the country. That is the documented arc as federal prosecutors have described it. Not the internet version, not the street blog version, not the comment section version built on rumors and fake shootings. The version sitting in federal court with exhibits, indictments, seized phones, financial records, and defendants waiting to be tried. Every step allegedly connected back to one night in Atlanta in November 2020. King Von died and left behind people who loved him. who felt his absence every single day, who heard his music and remembered what was taken from them. The grief was real, the bond was real. But what prosecutors allege happened next demonstrates how grief can allegedly become something catastrophic when it is pointed in the wrong direction. The alleged campaign to avenge King Von did not restore anything. It did not bring him back. It allegedly produced the death of Lil Tim, the federal prosecution of multiple people, the racketeering classification of a music label, and the arrest of one of the most successful artists in Chicago rap history at an airport as he allegedly tried to flee the country. And Lil Tim, the man whose name is in the title of this documentary, the man prosecutors say was tracked to his house arrest address, the man the internet declared dead in Texas before he got on Instagram to say otherwise, is still alive. Lil Tim was 23 years old. He was in that car in Los Angeles, not as anyone's target, but simply because of his relationship to Quando Rondo. He was family. He was in the wrong place because of who he loved, and he died for it. A young man lost his life because of a conflict that started years before he ever got into that vehicle. That deserves to be stated without clinical distance, because behind every name in this story, behind every court exhibit and indictment number and alleged text message, there is a family that never got their person back. The largest unanswered questions now belong in a federal courtroom. Prosecutors will present their evidence. Defense attorneys will challenge every piece of it. The jury will determine whether the government has proven its allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. And when that verdict comes, it will establish what can actually be proven and what was allegation and interpretation all along. King Von rapped about the streets with extraordinary clarity. He understood the cost of where he came from better than almost anyone who ever tried to describe it through music. He built entire worlds out of lived experience and turned them into some of the most compelling narratives Chicago rap ever produced. The irony is that the story of what allegedly happened after his death is exactly the kind of story he spent his career telling. A story where loyalty and grief and the code of the streets allegedly produced consequences far larger and far more permanent than anyone involved could have anticipated. He would have understood every layer of it, and that makes the whole thing even more tragic. The many attempts on Lil Tim's life, some alleged, some documented, some invented entirely by the internet, exist within a story that is still unfinished. The trial has not happened. The verdicts are not in. The full truth of what was planned, what was executed, and what was simply a story the internet needed to keep telling itself has not yet been separated into its final form. But the consequences are already permanent. Lil Tim is already gone. The federal case is already filed. Lil Durk is already a defendant. And the name of a 26-year-old rapper from O Block who died outside an Atlanta nightclub in November 2020 is embedded in every single chapter of what came after. The story started with one death. Allegedly, it produced another. And now it waits for a courtroom to determine what the truth of the years in between actually was. If you made it to the end of this one, you already know this story hits different from everything else being put out about this situation. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you think the federal case holds up? Do you think the full story has even come out yet? Who do you think the trial is going to expose? Drop your thoughts below. Share this video with somebody who needs to know the real timeline behind all of this. And make sure you are subscribed because we are just getting started.